If you guys have been listening to any of my Rabbit Hole Roundup sports takes and sports recaps from this past NFL season, you guys know how much I love watching Joe Flacco. And you also probably know by now that I love rooting for the veteran players.
You can do it! Get that old of yours in the end zone!
So basically every year I latch onto a vet who most people out there are calling washed and saying how that person should retire, and yet I believe in them. And I love it when that player proves the haters wrong. So this year in the NFL, that player was Joe Flacco. In the past, it was Ryan Fitzpatrick, aka Fitzmagic. There was also Charlie Morton and Justin Verlander in the MLB this year. Or in the NBA, currently it's LeBron James. Or in the past, it was also Nate Robinson. Anyways, I could keep on going down the list over the years. But while everyone out there loves to talk about the hot new thing, I try to find the lessons coming from the tried and tested veteran.
Grandpa, we'll see you around the nursing home.
And who better to learn from in the NFL this year than Joe Flacco? From getting booed out of Cleveland to becoming one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL over a few weeks stretch in Cincinnati, it was amazing to see. He's a class act and someone who's really easy to root for, and I was so happy to see that he was finally getting his flowers in Cincinnati. So in today's episode, I'm going to tell you guys the most important takeaways and lessons that I learned whether from watching or listening to Joe Flacco this year, aka Joe Calm. Anyways, without further ado, let's dive deeper now.
Give me a...
What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the Jared and James channel. I'm Jared Weiss. If you guys know that must mean that subscribe to the channel so you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts in the video. Follow me on every platform, and if you guys haven't done so already, make sure to check out my book, Fight Through It by Jared Weiss. All links purchased on my website, which is jaredryanweiss.com. That's JaredRyanWeiss.com. Buy the book, support me, and make sure to check out all the awesome shirts in there as well. Every shirt has been designed by me, every shirt is made of 100% organic cotton, so any support at all as I'm always saying would be very much appreciated. So let's dive deeper into Joe Flacco and the lessons that we can take away from him now. So the first lesson that Joe Flacco taught us this year is to listen to your own heart and your own opinion above all their opinions and above all their voices. If you looked on Twitter or listened to anyone in the sports media back when Joe was playing in Cleveland this year, it was not pretty. Everyone out there was saying it's time to retire, it's time to let the kids play, and of course he had to deal with the whole Stuart Sanders sideshow. Which, regardless of what you make of him in that whole situation, in my opinion, overall, it was pretty ridiculous.
And you are redunculous!
Anyways, away from the football itself, and back into the life lessons. So Joe was hearing it everywhere. But if you listen to any of his interviews before and during the season, he was not going to quit and retire when he knew that he still had more left in the tank. So in spite of all the doubters and all the people laughing and mocking the Browns QB, he knew what he was still capable of on the football field, even at 40 years old. So fast forward a bit, he basically gets booed out of Cleveland. Now if we're talking from a football perspective, the Browns team was an absolute mess, and due to the rookies being there, much of the blame got put on Flacco, in spite of the many interceptions not actually being his fault, and of course nor was the team's poor play overall. So after Joe Burrow gets hurt in the Bengals, Flacco goes there mid-season. So Joe arrives in Cincinnati, and I knew that this was going to be great. And yet everyone out there was mocking the move. Hey, if you think this washed-up former Super Bowl MVP QB is still good, take him. He's not doing anything here. Then after a Thursday night game against the Steelers, in the whole Unction versus Aaron Rodgers, and Mike Tomlin, who knew what Joe could do, and who didn't want to play against him as a result, so Joe throws for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the day after you hear the Browns radio people screaming, saying, how did we trade this guy away?
How could you do that, Andrew? How could you do it? Why on earth did you feel the need to trade this guy to a division opponent for a 5th-round draft pick? Fireable offense. The fans have had it.
And in his first few games in Cincinnati, prior to hurting his shoulder and spraining it, from which he actually played through it, he was up to 12 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. This guy was playing at an elite level, and he threw for 470 and 4 touchdowns against the Bears. Now imagine if Joe would have listened to the talking heads and all the haters against himself. What do you think would have happened then? Next, the next powerful lesson coming from Joe Flacco this season is coming from an interview he gave talking about what he wanted to teach his kids and show them by following through and making the move to Cincinnati.
When you look at this 11-day stretch one day down the road, what lesson do you hope it teaches your kids?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that hopefully they'll be willing to take on challenges, because I think it would have been easy to maybe say, nah, I don't want to do that. Like, you want me to play this week? I don't know. I think that's one thing is take on some challenges, and you can't worry about the outcome. I see myself as a competitor. I see myself as a football player. That's what I do. The challenge, okay, fine, let me take it on. I see myself as a football player first. No hesitation. Let's go do this.
So he wanted to show them, and this of course goes for anyone out there, the importance of taking on challenges. Take on things even with no guaranteed result. Once again, even just coming back for his age 40 season and being a starting quarterback was a challenge in and of itself. But then he gets traded in the middle of a season, has to learn a whole new offense on the fly in less than 11 days after his first start against the Packers, and then he goes to Pittsburgh on a Thursday night game. And what does he do? He puts together an absolute masterpiece. What were the odds of that happening? Pretty slim, I would say.
I have no chance, do I?
But if he quit knowing that he still had more left in the tank, and more that he wanted to accomplish on the football field, what lesson would that be showing his kids? To quit when the going gets tough? When all odds are stacked against you, when no one believes in you, but you say you're going to do this anyway, because maybe it doesn't work out. But maybe, just maybe, there's a tiny chance that it works out spectacular. Then you do it because the thrill of winning and the chance of that is way better than the sting of regret. And you actually build up that grit and mental fortitude every time you embark on one of these challenges. And this is why, as I'm always saying, I would much rather be the person who tries and fails than the person standing on the sidelines who's too afraid to ever try. At the very least, I won't have to live with regret, and I get the chance to prove to myself what I'm capable of. Now, the next powerful lesson that came from Joe Flacco during an interview this year, which so many people found relatable, of course, was when he said, he used to look at the guy sitting alone, eating food, watching TV, at the bar, I think, and he would feel bad for him thinking that guy was miserable. But now, as he's gotten older, he's become that guy, and he realizes, how happy that guy must have been. Now, you might be saying to yourself, it's not that deep, it's just, funny. But I see this as a reminder that you don't always need a big crowd, and you don't need, a bunch of people and a bunch of friends around you at all times, but rather, it's always about quality over quantity. And as I see it, when you're able to be comfortable and happy alone, this is an amazing skill because it means that you're never going to have to settle for anyone who treats you less than your best.
The place where I can be all alone.
And of course, this isn't me saying to isolate yourself and to do everything alone, because we're all different, and all of us react differently in different social situations, and all of us have different needs. I'm a very independent person who loves my alone time, but I also love spending time with the right people and the best ones. But because I'm able to be so happy alone, I don't desperately have to add people to my life out of fear as so many other people do. It's how many people out there do we see who jump into relationships that aren't good for them, or keep friends around just because they've known them for years, even when they know that they're not good for them, out of a fear of being alone. You will never reach your potential if you do that, because you are the company you keep, and the average of the people you spend the most time around. And when you realize that sometimes being alone can provide the most comfort, and doesn't have to be the sad, miserable experience, you will then only allow people in who add to your happiness, not the ones who take away from your peace. So as Joe realized, these people sitting around, eating alone, watching TV weren't miserable, and yet that's so often how people look at the person who's doing something alone. Oh, he must be a loser, where are his friends?
Oh, what a loser!
And this creates a reason to always have people around, even if it's the wrong ones. But if you overcome that fear of being alone, long term it's actually going to benefit the people who you choose to surround yourself with. And your whole inner circle is going to level up too. Moving ahead, another powerful lesson I learned from watching Joe Flacco this season was how to be a class act all the time. Many people out there, as we know, are able to be nice and kind whenever everything is going well, but what about when things go awry? So if you listen to Joe Flacco's interviews when he was with the Browns and the Bengals, the overall demeanor and leadership is basically the same. And this is of course hard to do, especially in front of the whole sports media, and knowing that you have fans booing you.
You suck!
I can only imagine what that must be like, but I can relate in my own way, because I'm someone who may know by now has been healing from a life-threatening illness since 2014, and at the time of filming is still going through my challenges, even though of course I've made a ton of progress and I have gotten a lot better. But over these past 11 years, I would have had every reason to be bitter and angry and mean-spirited, and yet if you ask anyone who knows me, or sees me at the gym or who talks to me, or if you listen to any of my content, everyone will tell you that I'm the exact opposite of that.
Then the opposite would have to be right.
I've had so many people over the years tell me how I make their day whenever they see me, or how am I always smiling and optimistic, and how am I able to stay so positive even while going through these incredibly tough challenges, and the answer is, I never wanted my life circumstances to dictate the outcome. I never wanted to be someone who waited until I was all better and fully healed to show off all these amazing qualities. I was going to be my happy, cheerful self in spite of this. And is it always easy? Of course not. Have I had moments where I wasn't happy and needed to take a day to allow myself to be angry and upset? Of course.
Hey, Patrick, are you angry too?
Yeah.
I am human still. But yet the vast majority of the time, in spite of having every reason to be angry or bitter, I choose to be happy and optimistic and focus on the good in my life. So when Joe is able to be consistent and keep the same demeanor, whether his team and his player are great, or when it's going really poorly, this is an amazing quality to have, and this is why we see him as a steady leader, and why he got the nickname Joe Calm this year. It's because he always appears unfazed, and doesn't waver in his belief in his overall capabilities. Now the final amazing lesson that I learned from watching Joe Flacco this past year is the importance of your surroundings and your environment. How did Joe Flacco go from 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in Cleveland to 12 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions over his next few games in Cincinnati? Well, of course, a big part of this was his environment. Sometimes the issue is you, but other times it is your surroundings. Now, as I spoke about during one of my recent videos, environment and surroundings don't have to mean your physical location. A lot of people think oh, you just move and suddenly everything is fixed, and then move again and again, not realizing their habits haven't changed, and their types of friends and relationships they're attracting are still the same. So you can't expect oh, this place is gonna have it all, almost like the whole Wizard of Oz story. As soon as I get there, then everything's just magically gonna change. However, there are times where you're doing everything right, being consistent with your work ethic, and keeping an awesome overall attitude, as I believe Joe Flacco was in Cleveland, and yet sometimes you just need a change of scenery, and that can make a huge difference. In his case, so in one place, no matter what he did, he was going to be rooted against. He was essentially, as I look at it, put in a situation to fail. He could have a great game, and yet all the fans were going to be calling for Shedeur Sanders to play. And so every mistake he made was going to be magnified 10 times. On top of that, you had fans booing him and calling him washed. And getting into the specifics once again, his receivers had the most drop passes in the NFL, and the O-line wasn't right for him as basically an all-pocket passer, who still actually had one of the strongest arms in the NFL and still does. So he basically goes from feeling unwanted to suddenly a team in need of him, and where he's being celebrated as such. With his new team, the Bengals, of course he had much better receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but you could also feel the momentum build with every throw he made, and suddenly he became a fan favorite. It's a more personal example for me is when I was in high school on certain basketball teams I was on, whether it was the school team or AAU teams, or any of the million different teams I played for. On some teams I was on, I was scoring 2 points a game, while others I was scoring 20. Now, what changed? Did my skill set suddenly get better or worse? Or could it be when you have a coach who believes in you, and who feeds you confidence with every shot you take, versus the one who screams at you and takes you out for every mistake, or when I had teammates who blamed me for everything, versus those who told me to keep my head up every time I missed a shot? That's sometimes the whole difference between unlocking the best version of you versus being thought of as a failure. So overall, to bring this video home, Joe Flacco's season shows us how to keep hope and faith alive and never let others decide what's possible for you. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed learning all the lessons from Joe Flacco this season. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. I will catch you guys next time. Stay positive, stay hustling, stay grinding. Catch you next time. Peace.